Good afternoon. Welcome to the Instructional Policy Committee Subcommittee meeting. Today, March 4th, 2024.
April 1st.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. It's April now. April Fool's Day. Yes. All right.
There you go.
I got you guys. No. So welcome to the Instructional Policy Subcommittee meeting today, Monday, April 1st, 2024. I'm Summer Hall, co-chair. So we can begin the meeting. Is there any additional comments or anything 1.0 for the minutes?
No, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Hall. The meeting minutes for March 4th, 2024 are attached, and that's all we have.
Thank you. Okay, at this time, I'll turn it over to you, Dr. Caver.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you for being here on this April Fool's Day. So we have one topic for today, and that is not a joke. So we are going to go over the new financial literacy course curriculum. Financial literacy now, before was a part of underneath our social studies content. And now it is, by the state of Ohio, going to be a standalone course that is required for graduation for a semester. And so we have to adopt a curriculum resources to go along to meet the state standards. And so that's what we'll be presenting today. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Adam Motter. He is our social studies supervisor here in Akron Public Schools, and he's going to go over the PowerPoint that will be displayed for you all today on the big screen. Adam?
Thank you, Dr. Caver. Members of the board, thank you for allowing us to provide this presentation for your consideration around curriculum resources for our new financial literacy course, which will be a high school course that we'll be rolling out this upcoming fall. Okay to move. Because Senate Bill 1 that created this new course requirement was passed a number of years ago, we've had time to plan for this, and we took that plan accordingly. 2 summers ago, a steering team was created. That's almost 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago, and this steering team looked at priorities we wanted to ensure was in this new course. I won't read all of those up there, but I will say this. One of the goals was to make sure that the course was not students coming to a block and following a traditional curriculum textbook. In fact, we didn't even invite the traditional textbook vendors to this adoption study for that reason. We wanted to make sure that it was inquiry forward. We wanted to make sure that it met the needs of our priorities in APS that don't just include inquiry, but it means being ready, college and career ready, citizen ready, and aligning to our board policy around culturally responsive curriculum. So those were priorities that came to the front as a steering team of teachers, administrators from almost every department in the Akron Public Schools that would touch this, as well as community people as well. Again, you can see these focused priorities. This was a further steering committee was put into place this last school year. So starting in the fall, The steering committee was made up, again, of community members, parents, Akron Public Schools students, various departments, members from local universities with expertise in financial literacy, among others. They looked at the initial steering team recommendations, understood the task in front of us, and came up with ideas to include, again, that met our priorities for Akron Public Schools. Just a quick note, our process, there's a teacher steering committee and a teacher team committee and a steering team committee. The teacher team makes recommendations to the steering team. The steering team makes recommendations to the assistant superintendent and the superintendent. This is just a timeline of how that teacher team and steering team went through this school year to select the appropriate materials and recommend them to senior leadership. A couple quick notes about how we evaluated materials. We went through a initial RFP with our technology department. Vendors had to ensure that it met our technology needs in the district. After that, we moved them forward. You can see 4 vendors that were able to move forward: Ramsey, Budget Challenge, EverFi, and NextGen Personal Finance. Without getting too far into the weeds, we actually used 2 quantitative evaluations to look at this curriculum. One we called a district scorecard, and as you can see, this contains, I don't want to scroll too fast, but this contains basic things that all of our curriculum materials need to have. How they align to the standards, how they have print-ready available resources, how they connect with Google Classroom, how they support EL students, how they support SPED students, how the user experience works for teachers and students. So we had an overall district scorecard for each of these vendors. And then the teachers themselves also, there were, I believe, 9 evaluations in total. Here you can see the adoption, the teacher team, and over here you can see members of the steering team. But each teacher then went through a further evaluation where we looked closely at the attributes and if it met the priorities of the Akron Public Schools for what we want this FinLit course for the curriculum to look like. Again, I don't want to get too far in the weeds, but I do want to pull out just a couple things for you. Not only did it have to have real-world learning about things aligned to the standards and that was important to our steering team, but they had to have the activities and actual student direct inquiry or activities connected to those things where students aren't just learning about it, but they're doing it. I also want to, I'm sorry for scrolling a little too fast, I also wanted to let you know that the curriculum we evaluated, it needed to have connections to cultural relevancy and to be reflective of the Akron student experience and appeal to Akron students and their futures. Again, we quantified our vendors to see how they connected to that goal. Lastly, on this, we wanted to make sure that the curriculum materials that we bring in for this course are committed to the student being at the center of the learning. Inquiry-based, various alternatives for the teacher to provide for where the students are at and what they need. So it needed to be a flexible, responsive, and inquiry-based curriculum, which is kind of a tall order for a lot of these curriculum vendors. Getting back to our presentation, this is how they scored. Oh, there we go. This is how they scored on the teacher evaluations. Excuse me for 1 minute. I want to make sure. Yeah, okay, I'm going the right way. So on the teacher evaluations, Next Gen Personal Finance was quantifiably significantly better than the other three vendors. Oh, I'm sorry. This says teacher evaluations. This must be the scorecard. Apologize for that. The scorecard, Next Gen Personal Finance scored the highest, as well as the actual teacher evaluations. So quantifiably, we identified a vendor that scored highest on our evaluations by a considerable amount. I know this data is a little bit in the weeds, but I just wanted to let you know that the materials, if you look at the teacher evaluations and you look at Next Gen Personal Finance, how they did, they scored relatively higher in all of the subcategories, which you see in red, than all of the other vendors that we evaluated. Further, when the teachers met, sometimes there can be a disconnect between data and what a teacher's looking at. In fact, one of the things that, and we didn't quantify this on our evaluation, but the teachers were asked to actually practice a little bit and sort of share some of these lessons and activities with the students just to see what the students thought of it. Again, that wasn't captured in the quantifiable data. Sometimes when you bring the teachers together and you share the data with them, they say, oh, wait a second, that's a surprise to me. I thought this would be the best, and the data is saying that is the best. That was not the case with this. When we brought the teachers together, they also identified that Next Gen Personal Finance was a far superior product, particularly based on those priorities that our steering committees identified. So we were, you always feel good when it lines up like that. When you have teachers, our practitioners who have skill in this particular course, they've taught econ, they've taught personal finance. We do a bit of personal finance, financial literacy, actually after our government teachers, after the students take the OST to meet a mandate currently. And for them to come back with quantifiable data and say, when we met to debrief, and say, oh, I'm really excited about the next gen curriculum. And that lines up. That was an amazingly strong recommendation to you to adopt this next gen personal finance curriculum. I do not want to get in the weeds, but I did want to show you the website. So I'm going to go to it now real fast. And this will also be available outside in the hallway with maybe some instructions for you if you and other board members want to fiddle with it. But I'm just going to show you a quick unit. We're going to show you the budgeting unit. And I want to show you what the teacher lessons look like. All of their lessons are Google friendly and for the teacher, as well as Google friendly for the students. The students, they'll be able to access all of these lessons in Google Classroom. All of their lessons start with an intro. Typically, they have to do something exciting or play a simulation. Next Gen has all these games that kids can play. Then they actually learn more about this. In this particular one, it's budgeting strategies. So they do an activity, read an article, have a discussion around a set of knowledge about budgeting. As you can see, in your own words, explain the difference. It's very student-centric, where the teachers can have great discussions with the kids as they move them toward the learning goals. Typically, there's a number of activities. And then there's always a do it. And in this case, the case study is how do I budget? If I were to click on this, then there would be the specifics of how to run through this particular simulation of the students making their own budget. Okay? I know I went through a lot quickly on that, and I do want to show you one other thing, though. So the alignment is very good to Ohio's standards for financial literacy, but one of the reasons why Next Gen Personal Finance stood out were these mini units. And if you can look up on the screen, these were pieces that actually connected directly to the priorities that I discussed. There is a fantastic, I'm going to just click on one where we won't get into the weeds on it, I promise, but we'll click on this entrepreneurship. And again, you see the actual unit lesson plans on the left. On the right, these are all activities that are found within this unit. Students actually practice elevator pitches. They do their own sample business plan. It's called a lean business plan. By the way, on the right, there's always extra cool activities, bell ringers, if you will, for Fridays. These are ones related to entrepreneurship. There's always a question of the day. These are always the ones that are connected to entrepreneurship. So Next Gen sort of organizes various components of the curriculum for the teacher, which we will also do with our own pacing guides. However, getting back to how Next Gen stood out, these mini units not only put the student at the center of the learning, sorry, I'm going to go back to these mini units, but we can embed these mini units and their activities into our pacing guides for our teachers, and they speak to a course that has curriculum that's directly connected to our Akron students and the things we value as a school district. And I'm going to be honest with you, that's what set Next Gen Personal Finance apart in the quantifiable evaluative data that we did. This is where Next Gen took the next step, and the teachers were very excited about this. So that's just a quick look at the curriculum. At this point, I'd be honored to answer any of your questions. I know we did a high level look, but I promised Dr. Caver it needed to be quick. So,
Well, thank you for the presentation. This is wonderful. This is something that our students need to learn. I wish this was in school when I was in school. But I did have a few questions. Out of the 4 vendors that you guys selected, are any of those local vendors, or is it all online?
There was Budget Challenge is based out of Cincinnati. The rest of them are national vendors that service. Budget Challenge also services nationwide, but their headquarters are in Cincinnati or the Cincinnati area. The rest of them are national. And Next Gen Personal Finance is a nonprofit. It's a 501c3, and it is at no cost to the district, which obviously is wonderful. But we didn't worry about that. We were looking for the best. The best also turned out to be free of charge.
Wonderful. That's awesome. With the financial literacy, do we maybe plan to partner with like United Way, because they have the Financial Empowerment Center? And I know we're educating students on financial literacy. How are we going to encourage the parents to make sure that they're assisting their kid with this plan? And then how can the parents also learn more so they can better help themselves and their children?
Yeah, that's a great question. There's a couple pieces to it, though. The first one was, can our APS social studies teachers, or any teacher, by the way, there are other teachers with other certifications that can teach this course. Are they allowed, or can they connect with other great financial resource opportunities and other vendors to teach this class? And the answer, of course, is yes. We have a long history with EverFi. We have a long history with Junior Achievement. United Way is another example. The Lemonade Stand is another great example. Of course, we have in social studies, there's more than one path to enlightenment. But we do expect our teachers to follow the standards. We do expect our teachers to use our board-adopted curriculum. So it's not a free-for-all, but it absolutely, we've embedded and supported other, a teacher says, hey, I'd really like to try this, and absolutely, we absolutely, we like doing that in social studies. The other question, though, was connecting sort of partnerships and interdisciplinary approaches with this course. And we're always trying to improve our interdisciplinary connections. We're always trying to improve our partnerships and bring, for example, bringing college and career academy connections into the social studies classroom and integrate those pieces for the students. And this course, by the way, is a natural fit for that.
Okay. And then one more question. What grade is this going to kick off in?
That's a great question. So students do have to, starting with this year's current sophomore class, which is the class of 2026. So these are rising juniors. Did I say that right? Mm-hmm. They do have to have this for graduation, and it has to count, this semester has to count as one of those 5 electives that they need to graduate. We envision next year roughly half the junior class or so taking it, and then the other half taking it as seniors. Technically speaking, as we unroll this and move this forward, technically speaking, anyone can take it after they enter high school. So a student technically could take it as a freshman or sophomore. Okay. We're targeting and trying to focus this for students to take it as juniors and seniors because there's more interconnectivity to their lives and the things that they need as they get closer and closer toward graduation.
Okay. But so if your child wants to get into this their freshman year because they're into like budgeting and some kids are into that nowadays, stocks and bonds, they're able to take this as a freshman.
Yes. We would envision that as we roll that out and we have the resources, the staff to do it, students will sign up and they'll take it when they need to take it.
Okay. You have any questions?
So you said currently financial literacy is under social studies. So what we're currently doing, is that going to be like phased out and this phased in, or will both be in existence together at any point in time?
So it used to be sort of a social studies piece. Now the law is pretty clear that it does not count as a social studies unit. Although it technically can count as a math unit, but we won't get into dual credit or anything like that today. The social studies currently sort of is leading the charge for finding the correct curriculum, for the professional development our teachers will need to as we offer this in the fall. And in most of our high schools, I believe the social studies staff are the ones teaching it. Career ed teachers can also teach it. Math teachers will also be able to teach it, I believe. Frankly, anyone can teach this course with the proper licensure validation through the department, through DO or ODE. However, at this time, the social studies department is sort of the lead in terms of making sure the work is done correctly, organized correctly, and it's a fantastic course for our students.
One of the many lessons I thought was interesting was the racial discrimination in finance. And so I'm just interested, I don't know if you can click back on it, like what are some of the things that they would touch upon with that mini lesson?
So one of them that's very interesting in this, I know the one that the teacher team looked at, and we actually shared this with the steering team, was the redlining that has taken place in the past and how that impacts generational wealth. And that would be a great lesson. That's a great example of a lesson that could be embedded in our curriculum map and our pacing guide. So our students who take this course, they'll see how that connects to their own personal financial decision making and what that means. It is. It's an amazing unit. And by the way, a lot of these lessons are very adaptable for the teacher. They don't take. You can do some of these where you're watching a video or you're reading an article that's been vetted, and then the teacher can have a discussion with the kids around it. So it's a very natural fit. One thing our teachers really, really liked is when connecting with modern day issues, and making sure you have strong routines with the kids, but that they unpack it in a way that doesn't allow it helps support the idea of where the conversation doesn't go sideways, where students understand the significance and importance of it, but it can be done quickly and efficiently. This was an amazing unit.
I know you stated that the part with the racial discrimination in finance will teach students about the redlining. And even though we say it no longer exists, secretly it still exists, because there's some communities that still can't get additional money to fix their houses up, with really no reason why other than the neighborhood that you live in. So when we're teaching that, we have to be mindful not to say it doesn't exist anymore, because people today are still affected by the tradition of what the redlining effects had on our students. But no, I think this is wonderful. So what are the next steps?
So we'll have a consent document for the board that will be at your next board meeting. Then typically with this curriculum, the board has 3 board meetings to consider and review. For your consideration, out on the table out here, I'll have set up a Chromebook that has, I'll have the website up. You'll be able to help your colleagues because you'll know to go to curriculum and look at the different units. But it'll also have some instructions there for everybody, so folks can look at it and so forth. And then after the third board meeting, you'll have the opportunity to vote to approve it.
And this will kick off this next school year, 2024, 2025, right?
Correct.
Okay.
And just for a little further clarification, so at the next board meeting, you will report out on our IP meeting, so that will be an introduction. This is the introduction. That will be the second time to bring it to the board, as well as, like Adam said, it'll be on the consent or on the agenda, but you won't be voting on it yet. It'll be bringing the attention to the public once again about that we have it, and you'll be able to remind them that they can explore the curriculum. Okay. That'll be out in the lobby and available for anyone to come and review. And then at the following board meeting after that, you'll see the item on the agenda again, and at that meeting is when you actually take the vote to adopt.
Okay, wonderful. And just one more question. Do we have enough teachers in every high school to teach this program?
We do.
Okay. So it's going to be every high school?
Yes, it's a graduation requirement, so we don't have a choice in the matter, because every scholar, starting with our current sophomores, that graduating class, it is now like you need 4 units of math or 4 units of English. This is you need a half a year of financial literacy as a course in order to graduate. It's just under electives. But that'll be the first class that must meet that requirement in order to graduate. And that's why Adam was expressing that for the 24-25 school year, our focus will be on those juniors, because we know that they have to meet this in order to graduate. And then we'll get the rest of them their senior year because it's an elective, and they also are meeting their other graduation requirements as well. And then after that, you'll see it'll continue to mainly be a junior course. But again, as we have room in the schedules, as he said, for our resources of the teachers to be able to teach it, it'll be expanded and opened up to more scholars. Okay. But generally, it's an upper level course because their 9th and 10th grade year are already filled with some of those requirements that they may not have room in their schedule, such as having PE, where that drops off. And so as a junior, you can fill that slot with something else. But every school will have it.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. All right, anything else?
No, so I'm going to take this back from Adam really quickly and go back to our agenda. And so I just want to bring your attention to updates in 3.01, and that is that we do have a College and Career Academy instructional policy update. So you'll be able to review that. I'll just bring it up for a second, but just going over our Akron in Action that we had March 5th through the 7th. I know you'll have heard about it, and we've seen articles and things like that, but just going over some of the things that are happening in our buildings with CCAA. So just the Dance Cleveland and some activities going on at Garfield. And then North High School as well. So again, that is in there for your viewing pleasure. And then that is all that I'll stop sharing. That is all that we have for you today. And if you let us know if we have any additional questions. If not, we will provide the PowerPoint will be uploaded to the board docs, as well as you'll get your committee report to help out in the summary of what we discussed today.
Okay. President Autry, anything else? Okay, well, thank you so much for this. So we can conclude our meeting today, April 1st at 5:14 p.m.
Thank you.